Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to Drama While I Design Live. I'm just gonna check my mic really quickly because they will not get me again. While I am doing that, today is Wednesday, August 26th, and we are gonna get into Beyond the Gates and everything that happened today. Everything that happened. Great. The audio is working, so I'm going to jump right into it with my handy dandy notes. So, we pick up where we left off at the country club with Dani and Vanessa still chatting about everything. Dani could tell that something is getting to Andre, and she and Vanessa just continue to discuss Andre's past in London, his partying, and how Andre had opened up a while back, but Chelsea interrupted, and so he did not continue saying what he was going to say. And Dani is just trying to figure out what is going on with Andre. So then we see Andre visiting Heather, which is so uncomfortable, but okay. And he's telling her that he cannot because Heather basically wants another night with Andre, and then she will leave Dani and everybody else alone, according to her, but she probably lying. But anyway, so Andre's telling her that he cannot, and Heather is like, I'm over this square version of you, Andre, and she wants her fun Andre back because for those who don't know, Andre and Heather had a thing back in London. Okay. So then next we see Mona visiting the casino to check on Randy, but she ends up crossing paths with Joey, and Joey is like, he wants to have another. He said she can have another crack at saving his soul. Because Mona is affectionately known as Missionary Mona, and she's this church woman, and she has taken an interest in Randy. I feel it's like a romantic interest, but she maintains she's just trying to save his soul. And we saw Mona about, I think, 2 weeks ago having an impromptu poker game with Joey, and she cleaned him out. And Joey was like, what? So now she's back, and Joey's making jokes like Joey does. Because I love Joey. He's so funny. He was like, oh, well, you can have another crack at saving my soul. And Mona was just like, I don't know. And he said this is another chance for him to get his money back after Mona hustled him the last time. And so they started play. And then, so the first time they were playing, she was acting all coy, like she didn't know how to play, and she made him cut the cards. This time, Mona was a freaking card shark. She did all the card tricks like a dealer, and Joey was like, all thumbs my ass. And I laughed out loud because Mona, sure enough, hustled that man the last time. But more on that later. So then we also see Nicole. She is visiting Martin and Smitty. She has a dorm warming gift for her baby Tyrell because he's about to go to college. And Martin and Smitty look in this bag and they're like, shower slides. Ooh, that's what every college man wants. And Nicole was like, you know what he doesn't want? But fungus. I agree, Nicole. Yes, shower shoes are needed, but whatever. So she's just there doing that, and she brings a little something for Samantha as well, so she doesn't feel left out. And then they get on the conversation about how Martin and Kat always keep tabs on gifts because Smitty was like, oh, please, Samantha's not going to be worried that Tyrell got something if she didn't. And Nicole was like, it basically runs in the family. Martin and Kat are the same way. And Martin was like, well, Kat was the miracle, and it was surprising that she didn't come in a manger. And then they started laughing about that, but it's just a little insight to like Dupree, what history, legacy, whatever. That was a fun little cute moment. So then we go over to the hospital, and Ted is there already, and Carlton is coming up on the floor. He's already dressed, so clearly he's already at work. And Ted's like, oh, you saved me a text, because he needs Carlton to basically cover for him for some other events so Ted can go and meet Shanice's brothers. And Carlton was like, oh, well, for such a worthy cause, I will agree to this event. And he mentions how, seeing the family or meeting the family is a very big step. And Ted says that he has, what they have is real. Him and Shanice, what they have is real. And he needs to start treating it as such. And Carlton was like, you know what? I won't be mad if I am not asked to stand up for you in your next wedding, just like I was to your wedding with Nicole. And Ted makes a face. So I'm like, oh, what's that about? More on that. So then Ted tells Carlton that, he's basically jumping ahead. He's making assumptions. And then Carlton reminds Ted of his past with some woman named Vita and how she was his Nicole before Nicole, and how Ted went all overboard and he went all out of the way for this woman. Turned out this woman had a husband. And so Carlton was using that to just like point out how Ted can sometimes get ahead of himself and do so much. Ted was reminding Carlton about his house party attire and high top fade. And Carlton was like, it is what it was and whatever, blah, blah, blah. So they're just talking about it. And let me see. They also talk about how they're happy that they were able to get past the Nicole of it all, because Carlton started dating Nicole, who was Ted's ex-wife, and Carlton and Ted were besties and business partners. So Carlton just mentioned really quickly how it was, hella weird when he was dating Nicole, and Ted was like, yeah, but at least we're speaking, even though it's just talking smack, and they dab each other up, whatever, homies over hoes, basically is what's going on. And they are happy. So then we see Martin, Smitty, and Nicole still at Martin and Smitty's house, and they're talking about Tyrell and Jessica, because Nicole did not know that Tyrell got dumped. And so she's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear this. She empathizes with him. She said she's going to reach out to Tyrell because, he's had a lot going on in his life to date, and she's just sorry to hear that this has happened, and she just wants to make sure her grandson is okay. So then she also checks in on Martin and Smitty is in his feelings because they are about to be empty nesters, but Samantha's a senior in high school. I said this yesterday. Samantha's still going to be there, so they're not going to be empty nesters just yet, but Smitty is dreading it already, and he's reminiscing about how it used to be when they were little bitty babies and they needed him and everything was like lively and loud in the house, and he just doesn't know what to do yet when it's going to be quiet in the house. And Nicole was saying how she cried so much when Martin went to college, and then Martin makes a joke again. Oh, how much longer did you cry when Kat went to college? Because in his mind, Kat is the chosen one, the miracle baby, but whatever. And so Nicole tells him to watch it, and then we go to the next scene. So we are back at the country club with Dani and Vanessa. They are still trying to figure out what is going on with Andre. And so Dani talks about how her model life in the past used to be a very fast life, how it was like dangerous, lots of sex, lots of inappropriate things. And this is why she was so big on protecting Chelsea from the same fate. And then she talks about how Andre was out here in these streets and how he did not necessarily have the same guidance that Chelsea had. And so that could be leading to whatever is bothering him. And Dani's just like, she and Andre promised transparency, and Dani knows she hasn't held up her end of the bargain because she absolutely slept with Bill in that elevator, and Andre does not know. But she said that Andre is different from her, and when he gives his word, he actually means it. What are you saying about yourself, Dani? But okay. And so she is convinced something is wrong with Andre. She could tell something is eating at him. And then Vanessa is just like, well, what if whatever is haunting Andre is a recent slip up of his own? Like maybe he stepped out. And Dani said, that would thing, but they would talk it out in truth and she would move on. Okay. So then we see Andre at Heather's door yet again. I do not like this. It's so weird. But Andre is there and he wants answers out of Heather yet again. This is like his third hotel visit to this woman, but okay. So the Heather's talking about how close she's getting with Vanessa and Dani and their bad babes club, or bad bitches that bad babes bitches be jealous of is their little club. Okay. So Heather's trying to get to know Vanessa. That's what she's telling Andre is the reason why she's there. And Fate just offered Dani up. And she's like, Dani's so much fun and they have so much in common, but Dani just doesn't know how much we have in common. Heather is like creepy and cringe. I feel like she's trying to take advantage of Andre and it's uncomfortable to watch, but whatever. And then Heather says she can't stop thinking about that kiss that she and Andre had. He didn't really kiss back. He just stood there and took it, but she was all over him. It was her, but whatever. And just that, she can't stop thinking about him and she wants him. And Andre's like, stop. I am married. And she's like, so what? Basically, I'm only asking you for one night. Okay. So then we are back at the casino. Mona has cleaned Joey out once again, and I was absolutely entertained. Joey was like, I want to know how you go from holy roller to high roller. And he was like, are you sure you weren't in this business in a former life? And little Miss Goody Two Shoes starts opening up about how she basically developed a love for, I'm not going to say gambling, but maybe the associated games. Let's just say that. And of course, it started in the church. You know, the church people be the worst ones. I know from experience. But Mona talks about how it started with bingo and then she just developed a love from there and she could do like poker and all the things. And we saw that today. So then she asked Joey, like, you know, are you letting me win? One, I don't think her ego could take it. But two, she was just like, are you possibly letting me win in some backdoor way to absolve yourself of sins? And Joey was like, honey, I only play to win. And I believe that. So then we go back to Dani and Vanessa. Dani does not think that Andre is cheating because she said she has a PhD in spotting philandering thanks to her marriage to Bill. And so she talks about how Andre was day drinking the other day and how that was weird. And he was drinking so much so that Grayson called Ashley to get Dani to come and get Andre. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that part from last week. And Dani's just talking about how Andre just seems tortured. She doesn't know what it is. Vanessa's just like, maybe this is an existential crisis. And then Dani's like, maybe it's a wanderlust. Like maybe he misses his old crazy days and things are just a little too comfortable now. And he feels trapped. And so we go right back to Heather and Andre. Heather offers Andre a drink, and he's like, I don't need that because I will not be here that long. Number one. And she's like, oh, well, you're welcome to spend the night. Again, Heather is so aggressive and creepy and cringe towards him. She promises to keep her hands off. And Andre's just saying that he loves his wife. He loves his life. And Heather's just like, man, what's the big deal? It's just one night. And she thinks that Andre is afraid that if he is with Heather again, he will never leave. And he was like, Because then Heather was like, oh, when you're in the throes of ecstasy with Dani, do you ever think about me? He was like, girl, no, not ever. There's only one woman I want, and it's not you, Heather. But she's not taking that well. Basically, she points out that what Andre is doing now is technically lying. And if he keeps rejecting her, she will not continue to take it so nicely. She is very much giving, I'm not going to be ignored, Daniel. She's giving that. Or maybe she's giving Leslie 2.0 because, well, we know Heather will actually kill people, according to Joey. Like, I feel like you have to be a pretty bad character if Joey is like, she kills too many people. So I think Heather should not be trifled with, but I don't think she should be trying to force Andre to give her the goods again, but I digress. And so then she tells Andre she's going to find someone else to play with tonight. And Andre heads out and he's like, look, once again, it is not going to happen between me and you. I'm just being honest. And Heather says, we'll see. And she shuts the door right in his face. That girl's crazy. But okay. So then Nicole is still at Martin and Smitty's. She's about to head out for a session, and she and Kyle have tickets to. Now, I live in this area. Is it the Nationals for baseball? I feel like yes. They're going on down to DC to the Nationals game, which is very cute. And Martin and Smitty talk about, they love how the chosen one, Kyle, makes her so happy, and she heads out. So then, back at the hospital, Andre makes an impromptu visit to Ted. And Ted talks about Andre's latest visit with Bill because he heard about that and he was like, ugh. So this is what Ted thinks Andre is in there to talk about. And Andre's just like, yes, he had a moment, and Bill is just like a pothole on Canal Street. You think it's fixed, it's never fixed. And he's going to be dedicated to his wife and just focus on that. And Ted agrees. And he's just like, he should have taken the same path with Leslie that Andre is now trying to take with Bill and Dani. And then when he brings up Leslie, Andre actually clarifies that is why he is there, because he wants to talk to Ted about Leslie. And it's like, what? Okay. So then, finishing up at the country club, Dani is asking Vanessa how Deanna is. And Vanessa was like, oh my God, I haven't seen Deanna this giddy since she was about to get her license. But then she gets interrupted by a phone call from Heather. Heather has already begun day drinking in her hotel. She is mad that Andre was like, no, nookie for you. And so she was like, hey, beautiful babes, come let's do drinks now. I'll come and meet you, blah, blah, blah. So Vanessa is nice, but she declined. She's like, oh, I have work to do and this and that. And Dani does as well, same excuse. And Heather says she'll have more fun than them anyways. And they all say they're going to do a rain check. And Heather says she will hold them to it. She drinks a little more and then she completely crashes out. She picks up a vase and she smashes it across the room. She's so angry. Oh, I'm like, girl, okay. So then we go back to the hospital. We go back to Andre and Ted. Andre has questions about Ted and how he did that with Leslie, the cheating, making another baby, the affair, basically. Andre wants to know how Ted could actually go through with it. Like, he understands the why, but he doesn't understand how Ted managed to live with that during the situation and after the situation. And Andre was like, how could you share a bed with Aunt Nicole knowing what you were doing? So I'm like, okay, I didn't expect this conversation, but okay. So Ted was number one asking, like, are you okay? Because Ted's like, have you been cheating on Dani? And Andre's like, no, I just came here for answers about how you could be unfaithful or have basically like a secret and you keep it away from your wife, basically. So then Ted said he compartmentalized everything and he told himself that the affair was over. And, he said that Bill chasing Dana Leslie out of town helped a bit and that it made it easier to carry. And Ted said, you don't live with this. You don't learn to live with it. It lives with you. And Ted knows that he failed Nicole. And once again, he's like, Andre, are you in trouble? And Andre's like, no. And he said, I have everything handled. And Ted said, that is exactly what I used to tell myself when I was dealing with the Leslie Nicole of it all. Okay. So then Vanessa admits, oh, I was wrong. We're still at the country club. So then Vanessa is telling Dani that, she admits that some of Joey's concerns about Heather are getting to her because Vanessa was all team Heather last week, even earlier this week. Joey, I don't know why. He needs to give his sister a chance and she's nice and this and that. But now Vanessa is seemingly heeding all of the warnings. And she advises Dani to be cautious with Heather as well. So then at that point, a designer is coming up because Vanessa wants to redo Joey's high roller suite, aka their love den. And so this man is like, oh, I can come back later. And Dani says, no, I actually do have work to do. And so you and Vanessa can keep your meeting, and she heads out. So then Vanessa and the designer just talk about the things she wants to do at the casino. And the designer was like, I would love to do it, but my schedule's a little booked. I'm working with this woman who wants a shouse, basically. And he was like, have you ever heard of such? And Vanessa was like, yeah, I know exactly the client you're talking about, Dana Leslie. So then Vanessa's like, so you can't start until early September, but I need this a little faster. So she says, how is your calendar looking like for now? And she sends him an undisclosed amount in a retainer, but whatever it was, he was like, oh, my calendar's open up. And she said, if you can finish within a week, here's the bonus you'll get. And he was like, oh my, you know what you want. And she's like, yeah, she just wants to expedite things so she doesn't derail any of the casino money. And she's ready to move. And so is this man. I know that's right. Anyways, back at the casino, Mona cleans Joey out yet again. Her poker chips were up real high, and that man had nothing. And he was like, we are done unless you want the deed to my condo. And he says this while Randy is walking. And it really is just like, what is going on in here? And Joey said, you just missed a master class and Mona cleaned me out to the tune of thousands. And so this is when Mona has a chance to explain as well. She was like, well, I was really here to check on you since this is the only place you seem to be in recent weeks, and like the church needs a tenor. Basically, she's like, the church choir is holding auditions and we need a tenor. And Randy's like, well, aren't the rehearsals weekly? And she's like, yes. But Joey surprisingly tells Randy, you know what, go ahead and do it. And he's like, I can rearrange your schedule and don't worry about it. So Mona was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And Joey with the jokes, he was like, well, his eye is on the sparrow. And apparently your eye is too. Talking about Randy. I was like, oh my God, Joey is hilarious because that's real coded. You need to know. Anyways, so then Nicole goes to the hospital finally to do her session, I'm sure. And of course, she bumps into Ted. Ted is walking Andre out. And Nicole's like, hey, nephew, how are you? And you would have thought she was talking to herself because Andre was just got on the elevator and said nothing. And she was like, okay, what's going on with him? And then Ted tells her, like, he's just going through some things. He's going to be okay. And Nicole said, well, I'm sure Daddy will get it out of him. And then Ted asks Nicole if she has a minute because he owes her an apology. And Nicole's like, what? You? Okay. So then he pulls her to the side. And Ted gives her this, like, heartfelt apology. That same apology he probably should have gave a year ago, and he probably still have his freaking wife. But he just tells her that he's apologizing for the past, and when things were going badly, like, she needed her husband to tell her she was not broken. Instead, he deserted her and he gave another woman parts of him that belonged to Nicole. I was like, oh my God, Ted, finally. So Nicole said, you know what? I already made peace with this. And Ted said, that doesn't mean that I made peace with it. And after my conversation with Andre today, I realized that I never said it to you directly. And that he said he failed Nicole as a husband and as a man, and he apologizes, and he will never stop apologizing. And there is no good reason or excuse for what he did, and that Nicole deserves so much better. And she just hugs him. I was like, oh, whatever. I know they're going to get back together at some point. I know it. But that was a nice moment. And I'm glad Ted has become man enough to own his stuff and actually apologize for it. Moving on. Vanessa says, once she enters the casino to see her man, she was like, did I just see Randy and Mona in the parking lot? And he said, yeah, the enforcer and the missionary just left for choir practice. And Vanessa was like, oh, okay. And Joey said Mona cleaned his clock once again, and that she was really there to check on Randy. And Vanessa was like, really? Like Randy and Mona? That's just as ridiculous as Randy and Haley. But Joey was like, no, there's a spark there with Mona. So it was like, Joey, you know what? Maybe Joey will not kill Randy inevitably. Maybe he will mentor Randy a little more. I don't know. Maybe he will like have Randy level up because he seems to care about Randy. Like Joey is the mobster with a heart. I don't care what anyone says. And he clearly has a slight soft spot for Randy since he, supported the missionary work that Mona is doing. So whatever. So Vanessa's just like, oh, okay, that's crazy. And then she starts talking about how how the girls think so in terms of Chelsea and Naomi thinking that Haley and Randy have something going on. And Joey's just like, well, I haven't seen Haley around here in a little bit, but whatever. So then Vanessa keeps gossiping and stuff, and he's like, he has nothing to contribute. And then she says, I can see that glazed look on your eyes. And she just talks about how she's gossiping. And she also talked about how Dani thinks that she can convince Bill or show Bill that Haley is cheating and that he'll come to his senses. Okay. So then Audrey comes home and Dani's there already. She's working on some stuff and she wants to chat with Audrey. And Dani brings up how Audrey was trying to bring up something from his past the other week that Chelsea interrupted. And now she's giving him the floor to talk about it because she really wants to hear what is going on. So next we go over to Uptown. Heather is going day drinking and she's greeted by the bartender, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, you want another spicy margarita? Blah, blah, blah. So then we see Heather look to her side and Carlton is at the bar as well. And they start chatting and flirting immediately. And I was like, what is happening? It was so like I said, she was drinking a spicy margarita, and for those who don't know, I think it's tahini on the glass and like some peppers or something, but they give you that as the rim. So Heather was like, oh, do you want to taste? And Carlton said yes. And why does this man lick the side of the glass? I was like, oh my God, I know you lying. Anyway, so they're enjoying this little, and he's like, ooh, it's tasty. I'll get one for myself. And so he does get one. And thank God he gave her the new drink. Because I was like, I know she's not going to drink out of this cup after this strange man done licked the side of it. But you know what? She liked it. And then he kept, he was like, oh, can you handle it? And she was like, hey, Lynn, I am right at the part where Carlton licked Heather's glass. It was so disgusting to me. But then Carlton was like, can you handle it? And Heather was like, ooh, I say you should proceed with caution. And then he was like, noted, and he would take his chances. I was like, yuck. Anyway. So then we go back to Smitty and Martin's house, and Smitty's sleeping like a little angel on the bed while Martin is working. And so Smitty wakes up and he was just like, I thought we were taking a nap. I mean, I know y'all love each other, but you got to be all hugged up on each other 24/7, whatever. And Martin was like, oh, you look so sweet, babe. I just didn't want to wake you up. I'm like, oh my God, get a hobby. Anyway, so Smitty's just still thinking about how it's going to be when they're empty nesters, and he still feels away, and he's just thinking about all the time that they will have to themselves. And Martin tells him, he talks to Smitty about how he basically appreciates the fact that Smitty gave up a lot to raise the children and allow Martin to pursue his political ambitions. And Martin's just like, kind of like, it's your turn now, Smitty. And that's kind of what they can do while they are empty nesting, and that, he deserves these things. And Smitty was getting all mushy and sentimental per usual. Oh, Martin, you deserve these things too. You've been a great father, a great husband. You set the tone for us, and you deserve recognition too. So yes, they love each other, and the home is blessed. That's it. And there's no one, since the kids are leaving, there's nobody they'd rather sit in the quiet with than each other. Then they run upstairs to do what they do. So then, back at the casino, Joey is looking at Vanessa's designs, and he's just like, the couch. And she's like, yes, like, I'm trying to elevate this joint, okay? The couch and this and that. And then he questions, the poker table. And if they're going to retire it, then he wants to take it for one last spin. Everyone in this soap is so hot and bothered 24/7. Are they pumping pheromones in the rooms? I don't know, but they're always on top of each other. And so he and Vanessa do just that. They decide to take the table for another spin, and thankfully we cut to another segment. So then we are back at Uptown. Speaking of the hornballs, Heather loosens up Carlton's tie, and they just continue to flirt, and he offers to take Heather back to his place, and she was like, I can't go to a strange man's house, but I can invite you to my room. He agrees. She's like, I got the ride, and he said he got the drinks, and apparently they are gonna. I did not see that coming. I was genuinely surprised that they are putting Heather and Carlton together, and I am trying to think about what the outcomes of that will be. But who knows? Okay. So then we end with Andre telling Dani that she's right. Things have been off, and it is about Europe. And Dani's just like, I can take whatever it is you need to say. I survived Bill, and I've been, dealing with worse things than anything you could possibly tell. So Andre is like, he did some things that he wasn't proud of back in the day in Europe and this, and that. And then he is interrupted by a text. And it's a text from an unknown number. It's Heather. And she's saying TikTok. Now, I thought she went to go see a man about a horse. Why is she texting him? But whatever. So he stops talking, and Dani's just looking at Andre. She's like, baby, what is it? And that's how it ends. And so, I'd say, not a lot of major takeaways from today. I mean, I was interested in seeing Mona play card shark yet again, and I would love to see more of it. She could definitely get hired at that casino if it doesn't work out for Nicole. And the Heather and Carlton connection really threw me, like I said, and I want to see where they take that. So I'm not sure what else is really going to happen throughout the week just yet. We haven't seen Bill since like Monday, maybe. So don't know what's going on with that. We haven't seen Tomas. So I'm sure we'll see the rest of them by the end of this week. But that is all I have today. Thanks so much for watching and joining Drama While I Design Live. I do this every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. on YouTube. And I also do a weekly deep dive of the bold and the beautiful and all of their shenanigans live on Sundays at 3 p.m. So please join me if you have the time. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And thanks so much for joining. And yes, Mona is a card shark all day long. I tell it be the church people. It's always the church people. It's always the goody goodies. And yes, Carlton has an itch that he needs to scratch. But yes, have a fabulous day as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow.